Hey guys, my name's Khadroth, and today we're going to be going over Medusa Saber. She's a unit that has been teased already a little bit before this, and we were actually expecting her to come out sort of with another banner, but instead she ends up coming to us right here with our new tower event that's come out on JP. It is an LB6 required event, and so as a result, yes, she is a limited unit. But again, Medusa Saber is a very interesting addition to the game for a couple of reasons. One, she's going to be basically our first 50% charger for the single target variety that we've had. And the other is that, again, she is going to function in a very interesting way as a quick unit. And I'm going to talk more about that as we get in here. And again, I think you guys will see there is really a lot to look forward to with her. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's going to be up to you to determine whether or not you want to roll. So again, for those of you on JP, I am going to briefly remind you that you have an anniversary at the end of this month. Be careful with your courts for right now. You never know what will be around the corner either. So again, for those of you guys that are really good Medusa fans, you're more than welcome to roll. But for those of you guys that are on a budget, be careful. Not game breaking, not by that means. So let's go ahead and go through her kit here. Start off right here, she's got 12k attack. This is fairly solid. Again, we've certainly seen units that have had more, but I'm going to say anything in the 12k range, fairly good for a 5-star, especially as Saber here. She has about 14.2k HP, so she's still on the relatively thick side of HP, even though she's not up in the 15k amount. Definitely still solid. And again, my concerns are not her survivability. Medusa Saber here has a fantastic kit designed around survivability, I think you'll see. So as we go through it even more, you guys can see that she is Earth attributed. That'll actually come into play later in her kit. She has fairly average star absorption, maybe a little bit low on that. But again, she has decent star generation, so perfectly solid. Her NP gain rate here is going to be the big one that a lot of people are going to notice here at 1.14%. That is a whopping NP gain rate. Now, a lot of people would be quick to point this out, but do keep in mind this is a quick unit. This is not an arts unit. So, yeah, quick cards don't generate nearly as much Noble Phantasm. We're going to talk about that as we get to the kit here in a second. Again, she has the 3% NP charge defense, which is just standard, and 21% death rate, which is, again, a little bit lower than average, but pretty standard. She is chaotic neutral. Her gender is female. Her traits are Divine Spirit, Divinity, Humanoid, Riding, Servant, Seven Knights Servant, weak to Anima Elish. All around, not a whole lot to exploit other than her Divinity, and so as a result, I don't think you have to worry about too much whenever you use her. But looking at her overall deck here, you guys can see she does come with the triple quick deck. And that's at least going to be fairly good for, again, just generating a lot of stars whenever she's trying to loop, or again, potentially even getting some really nice quick crits. That's going to be something that I think you guys will see. You're going to be trying to utilize her with Scotty quite a bit. So getting those quick crits will definitely be your bread and butter, not just for damage, but also for, again, NP gain. So not too bad right there, especially given it's a 4-hit quick and, as we already pointed out, a 1.14 NP gain rate. The problem I think you guys are going to have is realistically actually her NP in its refund, but we'll talk about that more as we get to it. She only has the one arts card, and it's only 2-hit, which is below average, so I think that is going to be a concern, but again, at that NP gain rate, you can see why it's only 2 hits. It'd be kind of crazy if it were even more. And her Buster card, she only has one as well, but it is 4-hit. So again, another fairly solid one. I think the concern here would be that you're probably going to be wanting to run her with Summer Scotty. Summer Scotty has a tendency to buff Buster crit damage as well. So that, yeah, the fact that you only have the one Buster card here is maybe not ideal, but hey, I think most people would probably prefer the extra quick card for various reasons. Still, again, with Summer Scotty and normal Scotty in the group, you can certainly end up buffing both these card types and end up functioning very well with each of them. So it's only going to be the arts card at that point that would be relatively unbuffed. And hey, if you end up with it, at least it's still very good for NP gain given arts' nature. So now as we look at her first skill here, you guys can see she has a chance to petrify one enemy for one turn. So this is a targeted thing. Again, it is a 100% chance at rank 10, but do keep in mind that this is not a guaranteed chance. The way that this works is that it's 100% against an enemy that has no latent resistance, but an enemy might have either debuff immunity or, again, some sort of debuff resist, either from buffs or from their own passive magic resist. If any one of those things comes into play, it is entirely possible for the Petrify to fail and not land. That being said, this is still pretty much as good as you can expect, so I think this is perfectly fine, and this sort of lends to Medusa's kit, at least for the comparison that I want to draw to her, which I'll talk about at the end of going through her kit here. So she also gets critical damage of her quick cards for 3 turns, and it's nothing to be, turning your nose up to. It's an additional 50%, which, as we already talked about, you're probably going to be running Scotty in these comps. So yeah, this is just going to be really, really solid crit damage for Medusa. Her card performance should be very good. She'll also grant herself an on-attack activate buff for 3 turns that basically will allow her to, whenever she hits an enemy with a quick card, inflict 500 curse damage to the enemy for 5 turns. So you can stack curse stuff on her. And again, fandom would also like to note here that Petrify basically works like stun. However, anything that is specifically stun resistance and stun success rate will not impact it. So that can actually function better for you if an enemy has specifically stun resistance, because Petrify isn't stun, even though it looks exactly like it and functions exactly like it. So definitely a nice little added benefit right there. And we've seen that on other units over time with other stun-like effects. But still, again, I think you're going to want to level this skill up fairly high just for the high chance of landing the Petrify as a sort of way of debilitating your enemy and stopping them in their flow and preventing them from doing what they're doing. Particularly as you start thinking about a single target unit, you're going to be probably doing a lot of boss killing, a lot of break bar bursting. And so as a result, having the ability to stun, as long as they don't cleanse, means you probably don't have to deal with that instant charge NP right after and can maybe utilize that to your advantage. But let's go to the second skill here. And now you guys can see she has the ability to charge her own gauge. And like I mentioned before, she is our first 50% charging single target Saber. So definitely solid in that regard, and certainly something to look forward to. However, I am going to say that she kind of needs it, and you'll see as we go over the refund numbers. On top of this, she also increases the party's attack for 3 turns by up to 20%, so it's just a solid charisma. And then also increases the critical damage of demonic allies for 3 turns by 30%. However, unfortunately, as we denoted earlier, she herself is not demonic, so this does not count for herself. However, again, if you maybe have somebody that is, hey, there you go, that could certainly be a thing for you. Still, I do think that this could be situationally useful depending on the team comp, and we've certainly seen stuff like this before, like say with Sathino giving extra attack up to divine allies. So there are certainly times that this could come in play, and it just might be something to work to your advantage in order to pair something alongside with her. Now, as we get to the third skill here, she has self-invincibility for 3 attacks, 3 turns. This is really solid. This is basically Ku's protection from arrows, except it's not immediately defeated by sure hit. It will be defeated by invuln pierce or buff removal, but hey, this is still a very, very solid survival skill. And like we already talked about, it's not like she was anemic in the health department in the first place. So this is certainly excellent for keeping her alive over time. From there, you also have debuff immunity 3 times 3 turns, so it's going to be very hard for enemies to debilitate her. And again, I don't know if you guys have noticed here, but all of her cooldowns have been 6 turns at this point, so really solid for, again, another very high survival skill cooldown here. And then to top it all off, she also increases her own critical attack chance resistance for 3 turns by 30%. This just means it makes it 30% less likely for the enemies to actually crit her. Definitely another really good thing. So you guys can see not too many steroids overall in her kit, but a lot of survivability. And to me, what this honest to God screams in a lot of ways is almost like Kama. To me, she's a 50% single target quick unit that has the ability to stun quite a bit. And you're going to see not only is it present on that one skill, which Kama doesn't have, but it is also present in her NP, as we'll get to in a second. So again, she also starts out here with magic resistance of 20%, making it even harder to land debuffs on her. Writing of A rank here for an additional 10% quick performance. And then Divinity D- for just some extra flat damage added to all of her attacks. Again, nothing too crazy, but hey, it's better than not having. Talking about her appends here real quick, mana loading is probably what you're going to want, but it's actually going to be very interesting and maybe even decently hard to utilize mana loading, given the need to have a 30% charger to really take advantage of it. Remember, Medusa's charge is 50%, not 30% like a lot of other quick units. So starting out with mana loading means that if you start from 0, she's now at 70% turn 1 if you utilize her own charge skill. You don't have to. You can certainly delay it, but I think this is where it's going to call into question of which supports are you using with Medusa. Bride can certainly go in there. Castoria can certainly go in there. But hey, I'm just going to say this is an intriguing thing. So still useful to her. Still probably my recommendation. But the third one here is Anti-Berserker, which is very strong. And certainly if we are using her as a single target, potentially forming Brave Chains, the extra attack finesse is really good. This is a very near toss-up between all of these. It's really going to come down to how you see yourself using Medusa, either as a solo expert, boss killer, part of a farming comp, you name it. But again, that is something that you will have to decide. I'm going to say if you're going to use her for more farming, you want the mana loading. If you're going to use her for more boss killing, potentially the first and third one. But hey, really just depends and is up to you. The one thing I will tell you guys to consider is with regards to the Berserker append, just consider how often you'll be using her specifically against Berserkers. And in that case, maybe it might be better to go with the extra attack. But still, third append being Berserker is never a bad thing. So it's definitely a really, really good one to have. Now we get to the NP. And if you guys remember, she has the 1.14 NP gain rate and a 9-hit quick NP, which is really, really solid. However, NP gain numbers not too hot, and I'm going to talk about that here. So she deals damage to one enemy with her NP, then she deals super effective damage to enemies with the man attribute, and then she has a 40% chance to petrify the enemy for one turn. Now, again, Kama has charm on her NP. Medusa Saber here has petrify on NP. Kama's charm has a much higher chance of going off, but hey, yeah, you could potentially loop Medusa Saber here and just sit there locking down the enemy if you get lucky. And, you know, maybe when you don't on the wrong turn or something like that, that's where you have the actual petrify skill to try and make sure it lands. So I do think that she could be a really solid unit for just debilitating bosses and stopping them from doing what they're doing. And then again, she's going to increase the attack of allies with the Earth attribute by 20% for 3 turns. That's even more insane when you consider she herself is Earth attribute. So basically, after all of her damage goes out, after she has a chance to stun, then she's going to increase everyone in the party who's Earth, including herself, 20% attack up for 3 turns. So if with subsequent loops, this will keep happening, it will keep stacking, and she will keep getting stronger. It's really nice. I'm sure a lot of people would probably prefer this to happen before her NP, but hey, if you're going to fire off multiple NPs in a row with her, I think it's really good. Now, I'm going to point out, again, the fact that realistically speaking here, Medusa to me seems like she is intended to loop, seems like she is intended to be this boss-killing unit for you. So, her overcharge effect here is just 10% quick up for 1 turn. It's only that duration, not too much to really write home about, but hey, this is going to make her quick cards even better, yet again, on top of that writing buff that she had early, and again, just having good all-around NP gain and number of hit counts on the quick cards. So, I think a lot of you guys are probably going to try and go after the quick cards, and I can't say you're wrong to do so in Medusa's case. Doubly so if you're utilizing Scotty on support. If you're not, then certainly something like the arts card's probably still going to easily outgain it. But hey, I am going to say that her having this overcharge is certainly a nice thing because it not only helps out damage, it helps out NP gain, it helps out star gen. So it's just nice all around to have. So let's talk damage real quick here. taking a look right now at sort of our other quick sabers here, you're going to see a little bit of a striation. That is to see, you're going to see Okita and Astolfo up here around 43k each at NP1. Medusa Saber's only at 41.5, and that might make people go, whoa, hold on, she had decent attack, she had really good NP gain, she had all this super effective damage, why is her attack so low? Well, remember, again, this is 1, neutral numbers, 2, not including any support buffs, and 3, it's all of their own buffs active. However, that attack up that she gets applies after her NP, so you don't get that. And certainly this also doesn't include her super effective damage, which, as you guys can see, boom, right there, bumps her up to 68. So I do think you guys are going to be fine with regards to this. I think that while Medusa Saber is a little bit under where Dioscuri and Astolfo, sorry, not Dioscuri, where Astolfo and Okita Soji land, that Medusa Saber has a much higher ceiling given the fact that she has the capability of hitting that mana attribute. Certainly Okita has Shikuchi, but right now that's still just a 1-turn buff, and you do have to pre-card the NP with it, losing out on any potential NP gain if you want to be able to take advantage of it. So it is what it is. However, I think what Medusa Saber is going to have ultimately at the end of the day is the ability to just kind of loop very fluidly with the NP. And we're going to talk about that here right now. So if you run Medusa Saber here, just with her self buffs, her latent NP gain would see her at about 15%. That's not that good. Considering you just saw it's a 9-hit NP and she has 1.14 NP gain, only getting 15% is not too great. With double normal Scotty, that would only be about 27%. Okay? And then with double Summer Scotty, this bumps up to about 31%. And with triple Scotty, 2 times Summer and 1 normal, this would get you to about 38%. We also ran the numbers, and it was somewhere around, I believe, 41% with Umu Bride and double Summer Scotty. That's kind of about the closest you can really hope for. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think probably what you're going to want to do, given the lower NP gain numbers, is you're probably going to be wanting to run Oberon as one of the other supports here. Now, talking about this, the weird way to think about it is, let's just break down here and assume it's just double Summer Scotty for right now. Looking at it, you guys can see that that would mean that she would get 30% on turns 2 and 3. So let's solve for 300. This is the easy way that I like to figure out a unit's loopability. Let's assume we use Plug Suit. We have a Oberon in there, so he's going to handle that final wave. That's going to get you to 70% on the final wave right there. Now, we know Medusa herself has 50%, and we know both double Summer Scotties have 50% themselves, so we can put them up there in turn 1. Here's the problem. This is why I was talking about a little bit with the mana loading. You start doing mana loading in this sort of setup, it's functionally wasted. You don't actually need it because you're stuck with all these block 50 charges. So you don't really have a lot of good ways to utilize it. Even if you were to monkey around a little bit with Oberon and throw him into the front, still not necessarily going to work out too well. So the issue at play here is that you would be potentially 20% overkill on turn 1 and 20% shy on turn 2. You would need the ability to get back to 100%. Now, you could certainly get overkill hits, and that would help you to get there, particularly on wave 1, going into wave 2. But it's not very likely that you are going to get that you are going to be able to pull that off, certainly to the tune of 20%. There is a maximum theoretical amount that you guys can get out of overkill. And again, when you're dealing with 30% there, I'm going to tell you 20% is fundamentally impossible. You might be able to get to it, but you probably are going to need to start utilizing some sort of crazy shenanigans by either using a hybrid comp, letting somebody else handle one of the waves, or again, trying to maybe card after the NP. Which certainly, if we're dealing with high health enemies or break bars, that would be possible. If we're dealing with maybe like a 1-1-1 type of 90++ node where you kill the enemy and move on, you're probably not getting that overkill, nor are you getting the opportunity to actually card after the NP because you had to make sure you had enough damage for like wave 3. So this ends up being a lot of the problem here is Medusa Saber has a lot of capability to refund still. The problem is the way the charge works out, it's rather clunky. So to me, what you're going to probably want to do is, well, yeah, you could start out with Black Grail with her, and you might be able to make something work. I think you're going to start looking towards alternate solutions for craft essences for her. Something like Traces of Christmas would get her that 50% starting power. That would allow her to have a much easier time turn 1 with being able to pull stuff off. And then certainly it's also going to help out a little bit on the NP gain and quick up department there, as well as being all attack scaling. Knights of Marines, actually, ironically enough, you could probably swap the party around and do something like Oberon in the front line with one of the Summer Scotties, and then basically end up rotating a Summer Scotty, probably turn 2 for the other Summer Scotty, and that would work. And the reason why I say this is because then you could start them out with 60% if you had an MLB Knights of Marines, basically add in the 20% mana loading, and then Oberon's 20% would function right there turn 1. That would also work, but it'd be rather clunky. However, that would also be an auto loop, so you wouldn't have to care about refund then at that point. So again, fairly interesting to say the least, but probably not the best in terms of damage. You only got the 15% quick up and 2,000 attack power there. True Crimson Spear Trainer is another one that hasn't come back for a while. It's basically from the original Shisho Fest event. Certainly nice card art there, but 50% starting gauge, quick card critical damage of 20%, not bad, and then quick performance of 15%, and like I said, all attack scaling, so hey, not a bad one either, and it would get you that sort of starting charge. And then Chocolate Heaven. This is another one from Valentine's Day that was basically a decently interesting one, as it's sort of a 0% charge craft essence that gives you NP damage of 15%, quick damage of 15%, and NP gen rate of 20%. I don't think this is going to push you over the edge necessarily on the NP gain, but this would get you a lot closer, especially if you could start getting some of those overkill hits. But again, it's going to come down to how much damage you can actually do, which is probably going to come down to, are they in her wheelhouse, are they man traded, that sort of stuff. If they are, she's managed to pop off, get a lot of overkill, then certainly that would be to her benefit and you would be able to function. But again, I'm going to say as of right now, it's not really looking like Medusa Saber is going to be that fluid or that easy of a 0% charge quick looper. However, I do see some signs in Medusa Saber's, I called her Lance earlier, I'm sorry. I do see some signs in Medusa Saber's kit that she may be designed for what's to come, not necessarily what we currently have. So it's up to you to determine if you think that they might end up supplementing her with maybe a newer support coming out down the line, or potentially some other sort of hybrid solution. But again, I do think Medusa Saber here is a fantastic unit, and a unit that can perform at a very high capability for you, especially if you invest in her well. So do not feel bad about wanting to roll for her. She is a great single target Saber option for you guys out there. And certainly there are some benefits to having some of the other options in play. For instance, Okida and Astolfo each bring different things in their kit. But hey, I'm going to say that what I really like about Medusa is that staying power, that capability to stay in the fight long term, and again, still be able to deal and dish out a lot of damage while helping the party some. So let me know what you guys think about Medusa Saber and whether or not you're going to roll. I'll be curious to read your comments, and I will see you guys for the next video.